The hunting grounds of Vareth Prime were sacred to the Krevthar, a species that had ruled the northern arm of the galaxy for 3,000 cycles. They were apex predators in every sense, 8 feet tall, covered in obsidian scales, with claws that could rend starship hulls and jaws that crushed bones like dried wood. Their pack hierarchy was absolute, maintained through displays of dominance and the iron law of strength. Captain Reed had been warned about all of this before the diplomatic mission began. Don't interfere with their customs, the briefing officer had said. Don't show weakness. And whatever you do, don't get between a Krevthar and its prey. Reed had nodded, filed the information away, and promptly decided he'd handle things his own way if it came to that. The human delegation had been on Vareth Prime for 6 days, negotiating mining rights in neutral territory. The Krevthar matriarch, Shakar, had invited them to observe a traditional hunt, a gesture of respect or perhaps a test. Reed had accepted, bringing only 2 guards and a translator device that hung from his belt. The hunting grounds stretched across a volcanic plain, steam vents hissing between black rocks while the twin suns cast everything in shades of crimson and gold. 50 Krevthar warriors moved in formation, their movements synchronized like a military unit. At the center of the pack, the juveniles practiced their stalking techniques under the watchful eyes of their elders. Raka was among them, a young cub barely into his 2nd cycle, his scales still showing patches of the softer bronze coloring of youth. He moved with enthusiasm rather than grace, eager to prove himself worthy of the pack. The prey was a herd of thornbacks, 6-legged creatures with armored hides and temperaments meaner than their appearance suggested. The hunt was meant to be educational, controlled. The adults would weaken the prey, and the juveniles would make the kill, learning the sacred art of the hunt. But something went wrong. A thornback, larger and older than the others, broke from the herd. It wasn't fleeing. It was attacking, its territorial instincts triggered by the proximity of the young predators. The adult Krevthar moved to intercept, but the creature was fast, faster than anyone expected. It crashed into Raka with the force of a ground vehicle. The cub's scream split the air. Not the roar of a predator, but the high-pitched wail of a child in agony. The thornback's horn had gored his side, and now it reared back for a killing blow, its eyes wild with rage. The pack froze. It wasn't fear that stopped them. Krevthar didn't know fear. It was protocol. The law of the hunt was clear. If a juvenile fell, it was a lesson. Intervention dishonored the cub and weakened the pack. Even Raka's own mother, standing 20 meters away, held her position, her claws digging into the volcanic soil, but her body rigid with the discipline of 3 millennia of tradition. The thornback's horn descended toward Raka's exposed throat. Reed moved. He didn't think about diplomatic protocols, or cultural sensitivity, or the 100 ways this could destroy the fragile alliance between humanity and the Krevthar. He saw a kid about to die, and something primal in his human brain, something that had survived 1,000,000 years of evolution on a death world called Earth, overrode everything else. He crossed 30 meters in seconds, his boots pounding against stone. The thornback was massive, easily 3 times his mass, but Reed had grown up on a planet with gravity that would crush most species, in an atmosphere that was technically a slow-acting poison to half the galaxy. He'd survived corporate wars, pirate raids, and a childhood in the resource districts where you learned to fight or you didn't survive. Reed hit the thornback like a missile. His shoulder connected with its flank, and momentum did the rest. The creature staggered, its killing blow deflecting past Raka's head by inches. It rounded on Reed, bellowing its fury, but the human was already moving. He rolled, came up with a chunk of volcanic rock in his hand, and hurled it with the precision of someone who'd played baseball in Earth's crushing gravity. The rock struck the thornback's eye. It screamed, and Reed screamed back. It wasn't a roar. Humans couldn't roar, not like the Krevthar. But what came out of Reed's chest was something else entirely. A sound born from a species that had clawed its way to the top of a food chain that had tried everything to kill them. It was defiance and fury, and the absolute refusal to back down that had let humanity survive ice ages and predators and themselves. The thornback hesitated, and then Captain Reed did something that would be studied by xenobiologists. For the next century, he didn't retreat. He didn't seek cover. He stepped forward, placed himself between the injured cub and the thornback, spread his arms wide and roared again, louder, longer, his voice echoing across the volcanic plain. The thornback's rage faltered. Its prey recognition instincts, honed over millions of years, were suddenly confused. This small creature wasn't running. It wasn't cowering. It was challenging it, and something in its primitive brain recognized the signature of an apex predator. The thornback turned and fled. Silence fell across the hunting grounds like a physical force. 50 Krevthar warriors stood motionless, their hunting formation forgotten. The matriarch's tail had gone completely rigid, a sign of shock that Reed's translator had never mentioned. Even the steam vents seemed to have quieted, as if the planet itself held its breath. Reed turned, dropped to one knee beside Raka, and pulled the emergency medical kit from his belt. His hands, which had been steady during the confrontation, shook slightly as he applied the nanogel to the cub's wound. "You're okay, kid," he muttered. Not sure if Raka could understand. "You're going to be fine." Raka's eyes, golden and slitted, fixed on Reed's face. The cub made a sound, soft and questioning. Footsteps approached. Heavy, deliberate, Reed didn't look up from his work. But he was aware of the matriarch towering over him, her shadow blocking both suns. Human. Her voice was like gravel sliding down a mountain. Reed finished sealing the wound before he stood and met her gaze. Her eyes were unreadable, ancient and cold. "You violated the sacred law of the hunt," Shakar said. "Yes, ma'am." "You interfered in a teaching moment. You dishonored the cub." "With respect, ma'am, I saved his life," the matriarch's claws flexed. The pack watched, waiting for her judgment. In the background, Raka's mother had approached, gathering her cub close with a gentleness that contradicted her species' fearsome reputation. Shakar studied Reed for a long moment. Then she did something unprecedented in Krevthar history. She lowered her head. "Just a fraction, but enough." "We have hunted the stars for 3,000 cycles," she said quietly. "We have conquered 100 worlds. We believed we understood strength." Her eyes found Reed's again, but we had forgotten that true strength is not refusing to fall. It is refusing to let others fall when you can prevent it. She turned to the pack, her voice rising to carry across the hunting grounds. "Mark this day." A human, soft-skinned and small, stood against the thornback. He placed himself between death and a cub not of his blood, not of his species, not of his world. He roared, and the predator fled. "He roared?" Her voice dropped, heavy with meaning. And we fell silent. The pack stirred, a ripple of motion and low vocalizations that Reed's translator struggled to interpret. Shakar looked back at Reed. "Captain Reed of Earth, the Krevthar honor strength. Today, you have shown us a kind of strength we did not know existed. You have earned your place in our history." Reed glanced at Raka, who was watching him with wide, wondering eyes from the safety of his mother's arms. "I didn't do it for honor, ma'am," Reed said quietly. "I did it because it was right." The matriarch's expression shifted, something that might have been a smile on a species that didn't smile. "Yes," she said. "That is precisely why it matters.